Good morning, listeners. Sorry to interrupt that song so abruptly, but that's just the way it is because I've got to get on with the program. It's Michael here, not being Haley, and telling you about what's happening in the Wairarapa, and there's a lot on. There's a lot on this weekend, so it's all about the two big things, Booktown, and our own event, Migrant Journeys number 2, which is happening at Aratoi tonight. I'll be talking with Peter Biggs and Greg McGee on the phone a little bit later in the program about some of the things happening in Booktown. Meanwhile, I'll boot on with a few things that are happening in the northern part of the region, and then we'll have some music, and then we'll talk to them. All right, so in the north, look, we all know that there's markets right throughout the region. So much to talk about today. I'll just take it as read that you know about the markets, and you'll be going there and having coffees and buying fresh produce and generally enjoying yourselves. So, it's Mother's Day coming up. I never sort of know about that because I always think of it as a way for businesses to make money, but nonetheless, it's a way of saying, hey, thanks, Mum, too. So there's a Mother's Day celebration at the Paehatua Town Hall, which is on the corner of Main Street and Kiwi Street, Paehatua. This is on Saturday at 6 o'clock. I tell you what's especially interesting about it. It's the Filipino community of Paehatua and Woodville are getting together. They're inviting you all to come and join them for a fun-filled night with lots of dancing to the music of 60s, 70s and 80s. It's a kind of Filipino thing. I think that sounds great. Come along in your best 60s, 70s and 80s party costume. Games for mums and kids. Dads can join in too. And intermission numbers from the mums. I wonder what that is. Please bring your own drinks. Finger foods, coffee and tea will be provided by them. So that was and will be the Mother's Day celebration provided by the Filipino community of Paehatua and Woodville. It's at the Paehatua Town Hall, Main Street and Kiwi Street, Paehatua, Saturday, 6 p.m. While we're still in the north, we've got the Norsewood to Takapau Fun Challenge. Sounds like a bit of running. Or walking, if you like. Oh, cycling too. So that starts at the Norsewood Community Hall on Sunday, 8 in the morning. Get there and, the whole riding, walking, running thing will happen until 12 o'clock. Some of you might end sooner than that. So accept that challenge. Walk 10K or you can walk 21K. You can run 10K or 21K. You can cycle 20K, 40K or 80K. If you're interested in that, adult competitors cost $25, child competitor $5. So it's a picturesque journey between Norsewood and Takapau. Heaps of spot prizes, courtesy transport between venues to collect vehicles, fun and entertainment, food at Takapau School. So, as I said, you go to the Norsewood Community Hall, Coronation Street in Norsewood, 8 in the morning on Sunday. Then, coming a bit closer in, we've got the Win a Wairarapa Wedding Raffle. I mentioned that last week, but it's still going. So you can buy tickets for that Win a Wedding, and the proceeds go to hospice. Yep, Wairarapa Hospice. So you can order your tickets online or buy them directly from Hospice Wairarapa, which is on Reynolds Street in Masterton, or the Hospice Shop, which is just over there, 53 Queen Street. Tickets cost $50 and they're only selling 500. So if you get yours today before they're all gone, you're in with a really good chance. And you can win your own wedding. There's a quiz night fundraiser happening at the Masterton Club, which is 98 Chapel Street, Masterton, on Friday 7 p.m. This is for age concern. Teams of 6 approximately at $10 a person. Teams of 6 approximately. That is, if you think you can hack it with 3, go for it. Numbers are limited, so give them a call to secure your table. 377 0066. 377 0066. Nibbles, cash bar, raffles, spot prizes. There's a first price, first place prize and a professional quizmaster. Yes. Come and support their wonderful organisation. So we're talking about Age Concern, and have a great night out. Friday at the Masterton Club, 7 o'clock. Right. At the Carterton Events Centre, we have She Has to Be Loved. It's like a tribute show. Well, in fact, it is a tribute show, but really Kiwi. It's all those great songs, women's songs, really. I mean, when I say women's songs, women sing them. We all enjoy them. She Has to Be Loved is Jenny Morris, isn't it? But there'll be lots of others. That's at Saturday, 7:30 to 9:30 at the Carterton Events Centre. So, yeah, you know, the songs, there'll be Sharon O'Neill, Bic Runga, Jenny Morris, Margaret Ehrlich, Bo Runga, Anika Moa, Carly Binding, Jin Wigmore, and others. Treat your mum for Mother's Day, they're saying, by joining the live band Quiet Storm, that's who's performing these, as they follow the chart success of some of New Zealand's most beloved female musicians, tell their stories through their songs, and recognise the contribution they've made to New Zealand music. Right, ice skating? What? Yes, there's an ice skate tour, but by that I think they're actually laying a temporary ice rink at St Patrick's School. Yeah. The ice skate tour travels around New Zealand with state-of-the-art artificial ice rinks. They look like ice, not ace, but they're pretty ace. They look like ice and have 97% the same gliding capacity as natural ice. Surrounded by an inflatable boarding and helmets and gloves and stuff so you don't hurt yourselves. And that's at no charge. And it is compulsory for kids. It's the safest possible way to try ice skating. Prices are $8 for kids under 16, $12 for adults, $35 for a family. That's 2 kids, 2 adults, or maybe 3 kids and 2 adults. Yeah, which includes ice skates, helmet, gloves, and at least half an hour ice skating, longer if there's maybe fewer people and you can move around easily. You can also book the ice rink for your group, your church group, your scout group, whatever, in the evenings during the week. So that's at St Patrick's School. It's starting this Wednesday. Yeah. Oh, hang on. Did you? Yeah, so it's on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But on Friday, they're having the St Patrick's Curling Cup. Oh, that was ages ago. I don't know how that's crept into here. Crept. All right. So the ice skate tour, they've got this kind of artificial ice thing that's 90% as slippy as ice. And that's at St Patrick's School, which, as you know, is on Chapel Street in Masterton. So that sounds like an exciting thing. Now, big thing for us here at Arrow FM is the Migrant Journeys #2 event that we're holding at Aratoi. So thanks to Aratoi for collaborating with us. And at that event, we're playing fully produced productions of the stories of migrant taxi drivers, in this case 2 taxi drivers, Helmi Al-Khattat from Iraq and Sukhdev Singh Bains from the Punjab. And so it's a strange thing. You get a whole room full of people, in this case the Wesley Wing at Aratoi, concentrating together and quietly listening to these fascinating, compelling stories. Most people close their eyes. And afterwards, well, at the interval, there's refreshments. Various people are chatting as well. Adrian Jansen, who co-wrote the original book, Migrant Journeys, is talking about a book of migrant poetry that she's edited. And Diane Comer from Vic University, still called Victoria, is presenting her book, which is called The Braided River, and it's a collection of essays about the whole migrant refugee experience. But anyway, fascinating stuff in itself. And they're talking at the interval where there'll be all sorts of refreshments. And then we go back in and listen to the second story. And then those drivers and those speakers will be available for a question and answer session afterwards. So fascinating stuff. And we'd love you to be there, because we put a lot of work into it, but we also know that it's really good because we did it once before. We did it in February with Sokun Chiv from Cambodia and Nena from Serbia. And it was really, really fascinating evening, and we think you'll love it. So come along to Aratoy, 7 o'clock, Friday, the 10th. That's today if you're listening today, and it was yesterday if you're listening tomorrow. Did you enjoy it? I did. At Aratoy, 7 o'clock. But if you come a little bit earlier, I think that's a good idea. But we don't know how many people are going to turn up, and we don't want to turn people away, so get in early. Jonas Koki will be playing sitar and things in the room before it, so you might as well get in, somewhere between 6:30 and, say, 10 to 7, and go in there and listen to some music. Look at the fabulous exhibition that's on there in the Wesley Wing. Sit down, find yourself a good seat, get ready for the whole night's entertainment. I say entertainment, and it is really entertaining, and they have funny things to say, and they have heartwarming things to say, but it's also mostly compelling. These are people who've perhaps really had to face adversity in their home countries, and they've come to New Zealand and they've made it their home. They are us. All right, now I'm going to be phoning Peter Biggs and Greg McGee in a moment, so it's all about Booktown, because so many events at Booktown, just so many events, and Greg and Peter will be able to give us a bit of an insight into all that. So, what with it being Booktown kind of thing, actually, I'm going to play Paperback Writer later on, but right now, because I have to wear a suit tonight, I don't have to, but I'm going to, and I hardly ever wear a suit. I've got the Zoot suit, it's the only suit I have. Then I thought, we'll play the Crocodiles singing My Suit.
That's my suit. In my suit, I'm driving in my car. In my bed, I'm lying. In my head, I'm never very far from the truth. No, they say my mind is meant execute. But it's always just too tight or too loose. That is never very nice in my suit.
Well, hello everybody. That was the Crocodiles Within My Suit. As I say, I'll be wearing a suit tonight, and that's a fairly unusual event for me. Now, I have Peter Biggs on the phone. Are you there, Peter?
I am, Michael. Morena, good morning.
Morena, ke te pehe a koe.
Ke te pā.
Oh, good. So am I, roughly. Anyway, look, it's a pleasure to have you on the radio station, and I am just so impressed with the number and quality of events that are happening in Booktown. This has really taken off tremendously well over the few years that it's been going, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. So this is our fifth one, and it's our biggest program yet. We got taken by surprise last year with the numbers of people. So we got around 5,000 people last year, and there were queues down the street in many venues. So this year we thought, well, if you build it, they will come, as happened last year. So we've been very ambitious this year, and not only our ambition, but there was the desire by many of the writers.
Oh, are you there, Peter?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me, Michael?
Yes, I just for a moment I lost what you were saying. Yep, the desire by many of the writers.
The desire by many of the writers and presenters to come back.
Yeah.
So we wanted to accommodate them, and also a number of people who hadn't been to Featherston Booktown to present or lead a session wanted to come. So we're thrilled with the program, and I've got to pay a huge piece of credit to the board of Featherston Booktown. And they've done an amazing job. And also, I'd like to commend our volunteers. We have a huge number of volunteers, wonderful people who give their time to make this festival happen.
Yes,
and
my neighbour is a volunteer. I know that these things are dependent on the goodwill of those people.
That they are, and the community of Featherston has been absolutely brilliant in terms of embracing Featherston Booktown, and they're a crucial part of festival success. And the view of the board that this festival, the people of Featherston, not us. We're just custodians of it.
Yes, it must, I think, make a qualitative and quantitative difference to Featherston itself. It's quite a thing to be a book town in the first place, isn't it? What's the idea behind that?
Well, there are 22 book towns around the world, and a book town, the first one is Hay-on-Wye, which began in the early 60s. And
I've just lost Peter for a moment.
The 22 of them are located in villages or towns of historic interest or scenic beauty. So Featherston, we're lucky to be 50 minutes from Wellington. It's got a lot of history. in fact, it's steeped in history, Featherston, and it's a wonderful community. So we had to go through a few hoops to become an official member. There was only one member in Australasia, which was Clunes in Victoria, very similar to Featherston. In fact, I was there last weekend. They get 15,000 people through their Booktown Festival.
What do
They've
you
been
estimate?
wonderfully helpful to us.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But what kind of numbers do you expect, or have you experienced coming through Featherston?
Normally 5,000.
Yeah.
I mean, we got 2,000 the first year, and it's now built to 5,000. We're hoping that we'll get 6,000 this year, and to prevent the queues and the people missing out for sessions, this is the first year we've ticketed everything, so we'll get a much more accurate figure this year. But Wellingtonians, and I'm talking about the region. Wellingtonians are notorious for walk-ups. So, as Melburnians are. So, what happened to Clunes over the weekend was people wake up, a lovely day, what are we going to do today? Oh, let's go to Booktown.
Yeah.
So, we're prepared for walk-ups as well. So, if you have got a ticket, come along anyway, because you may well still get a seat. Plus, there are lots and lots of other free events happening through Featherston, particularly for young adults and children.
Yeah. Can you give us a taste of, I mean, there are so many events. I have the booklet here, and I've been talking about it on air right from last week, but it's difficult to cover them all. How do you begin,
yes,
for example?
Well, I'll begin with what we're doing tonight, and I know Greg McGee, wonderful man, based there, but Greg's the speaker at the Fish and Chip Supper, which is new, and I won't event. I'll just mention a thing called Late Night Lit. So tonight and Saturday, after the main program finishes, there's readings by, and you can bring along a poem or a piece of writing yourself. It's happening late at night. So tonight it'll be the Featherston Bowling Club. Tomorrow night, Tararika Estate. So the main events, if you can call any of them main events, because all of the writers and sessions are great. So the Fish and Chip Supper tonight. The True Stories Told Live event, which was such a success last year at Tararika Estate, that's sold out. Then another innovation, and we want to thank the book for their support of True Stories Told Live. Then another big innovation, because it's Mother's Day on Sunday, is the Mother's Day afternoon tea. Now again, that's sold out, and that's going to be quite wonderful, because Kate DeGoldie is curating a session with some amazing writers. Joy Cowley, Featherston's own Joy Cowley, Emily Wright, Dame Fiona Kidman, Leon McFall, and Kate, who's superb, will do an amazing job there. So those are the main events. And then we've got the Harry Potter quiz, which is quite a new thing as well, and that's sold out. And then all the weekend, we've got various streams. What we call for our sake to get these things organised is the general program, and then we've got the children and young adult program, and then we've got the book as artefact program, and that's important because a Booktown is celebrating the book, not the pre-festival, although there are elements of the in a Booktown festival, but we celebrate the wonderful world of books. So there's book binding, paper making,
so the physical thing itself.
Publishing.
Yeah.
And John Arnold is coming. There's a lovely and wonderful from Clunes Booktown coming. John Arnold, he's a book valuer and a book collector. So John's doing his. If you've got any old books that you think might be worth something, bring them along, and John will value them for you. And I should point out, Michael, sorry, there's a really fascinating session under the Book as Artefact program. Lydia Weavers, and there were people queuing down the street last year for Lydia's session. She's doing another session on writers who were once terribly and wonderfully famous, and then they disappear.
The used to be famous club.
Yes, and she's talking with Angela Thirkle this year, but she's also doing a session under the Booker's Artefact program on the Sunday on the library at Branspeth Station, which should be fascinating, and that's based on her book Reading in the Country. Everyone, but it's all about books, and it's all about writing, and it's all about celebrating the precious place that books and writing and writers have in our lives.
So you've mentioned quite a number of events there that are sold out. What has not sold out that you think we'd be mad not to go to?
Oh, well, there's a great session. I hesitate to pick them because they're all good. But there's a really fascinating session, in my view, from Cairo to Casino, a memoir of Paddy Costello. Robert McLean's a Featherston writer. He launched Dan Davin's poetry last year, and now he has this book on the mercurial and mysterious Paddy Costello, who was, along with Davin and Geoffrey Cox, Freiburg's intelligence officer, and then got into the Foreign Office and was, I think, our first member of the delegation to Moscow. And then he got mired in controversy of the communism. Lloyd Jones is discussing his latest novel. This is all on the Saturday. Ron Polinsky, if you're into rugby and history, is talking with Kevin Chapman about Keith Murdoch, and that's based on his book, which came out last year. There's a really interesting one. Mike Fitzsimmons has written a book on Joy Cowley's spiritual writings. That's also on the Saturday. Great session with the historians, Jane Tollerton, Neil Francis, and Jock Phillips about writing history. And then Ian Grant's talking about the early newspapers in Wellington. And then we've got the Fierce Girl Poets, the Royal Hotel in Featherston, great supporter of Featherston Booktown. We've got that should be a wonderful session, and then it rolls on Sunday. I mean, there are fantastic sessions. A workshop in poetry with Harry Ricketts. He's always popular. A great interview session on the Sunday on Sunday at lunchtime with Dame Fiona Kidman, one of our greatest writers. And there's a really good one on the Sunday afternoon, I reckon. Which is small town stories. So the place of small towns in New Zealand literature.
And small towns loom large in New Zealand literature.
They do.
Yes.
They do. And Catherine Robertson, who's a best-selling author, has written a number of books set in small towns in New Zealand. And we're going to Kirsty Gunn, who now lives in the UK, I think. Yeah. And I was at university with Kirsty, and she, of course, made her name with that. I think it was Rain, but then she wrote a book called Featherston. So it would be good to explore that as a genre, really, small town literature in future book towns.
I just think it's such a wonderful event that I think the trick is to camp in Featherston and go to everything you possibly can. Is it annually now, or is it biannually?
It's annual. It's annual, and we now have events during the year, and so we've collaborated with the International Festival with writers coming over, talking to Verb Wellington, and they're the organisers of Lit Crawl, and so we're looking at an alliance with them. We're launching the Featherston Booktown Writers Residency this weekend. Featherston is going to have a writers residency. And not just for writers, Michael, it's a bit of an innovation. The people who are overlooked often are the festival organisers and arts administrators, so the residency is open to them.
That's a new idea, yeah.
Space away and time to plan.
Right. Now, I'm holding, for our television viewers, I'm holding the booklet up so that there are plenty of those scattered all around the region. Definitely worth dipping into that, because it is many pages of wonderful events. So, Peter, if they don't have the book, what's the web page to go to if you want to find out more about this?
www.booktown.
Yep.
.org.nz, and you'll find everything there. But there should. You're right. The team's done a wonderful job to get the program out.
Yeah.
We're all a bit tired, but very excited about launching
Yes.
tonight.
All right. Hey, well, I'm going to go to some music, and then I'll phone Greg, who's probably sitting there wondering what's happening. We'll
Right,
have
okay, yes.
bit of a chat with Greg, a.k.a. Alex Bosco.
Yes. Yes, well.
Sorry, carry on. This phone line is a bit problematic, listeners. I'm sorry about that, but we appear to have lost Peter. I'm just going to have to say goodbye, play Paperback Writer, and then I'll be phoning Greg.
Paperback writer. Based on a novel by a man named Lear, and I need a job, so I want to be a paperback writer. Paperback writer. It's a dirty story of a dirty man, and his clinging wife doesn't understand. His son is working for the Daily Mail. It's a steady job, but he wants to be a paperback writer. Paperback writer. Paperback writer. It's 1,000 pages, could take a few. I'll be writing more in a week or two. I can make it longer if you like the style. I can change it round, and I want to be a paperback writer. Paperback writer. If you really like it, you can have the rights. We could make $1 million for you overnight. If you must return it, you can send it here. But I need a break, and I want to be a paperback writer. Paperback writer. Paperback writer.
Well, the Beatles with Paperback Writer. Hang on, I'm struggling with my headphones at the moment. Anyway, there's Greg McGee on the telephone. Is that you, Greg?
It is indeed, Mike. How are you?
Yeah, I tell you what, I've had a few problems with the phone this morning. I don't know what it's about, but anyway, I can hear you.
Well, that's good. I can hear you, Clark.
Now, of course, I'm not sure if I'm speaking to Greg McGee or Alex Bosco. What is this alter ego of yours?
Yeah, I'm not wearing my frock today, Mike. No, Alex has gone back into the closet. I loved being her. A few years ago, it was a huge freedom to be able to write. Both books are from a woman's point of view. So,
right.
And I just felt that if my name was on the front of the book, she would not be given credit as a
fully credited. I see.
Yeah, well, yeah. You know, as you get older as a writer, you get sort of pigeonholed, and I think my, you know, I suppose I was regarded as a writer of males,
bloke
you know,
stuff.
New Zealand blokes.
Well, of course, I mean, it's difficult to escape the fact that you're the man behind Foreskins Lament. I know you've done many wonderful things since then, but that is, of course, where you shot to fame. I remember the original production at Circa Theatre in Wellington all those years ago.
Well, that wasn't the original production. It actually premiered in Theatre Corporate the year before, but 81 was... I was actually talking to a few guests at Bigsy's last night about... I was very lucky with the timing of that play. 81 and, you know, the whole Springbok tour thing and huge anti-rugby sentiment and... You know, the protests where urban liberals got out on the street and, you know, it was a time of great upheaval in New Zealand society and it sort of was a precursor to what happened in 84, where there was a sense that someone had their finger in the dike of social change in New Zealand and it was about to be released. You know? So I was fortunate.
You say you were fortunate, but also you were amongst the first to examine, I don't know, I guess our sense of nationhood and the conflict between the protest movement and rugby lovers, or many rugby lovers who joined the protest movement. I'm thinking of Graham Murray himself, who decided not to join the Cavaliers, etc., and go to South Africa.
Yeah, and an unsung hero from this area was Ken Gray, who suffered hugely by taking a stand because a lot of his social life revolved around the Petone Club. Yeah. And when he stepped away from the tour, I think he was pretty much ostracised, as those were different times, and luckily we all moved on. And when you talk to people now, it's hard to find anyone who back then was actually pro-tour. Everyone seems to have adjusted their position so that they're on the right side of history now, which is fantastic.
Not just that they've changed their mind, but they were always against the tour. That's right.
Exactly. Yeah. It's wonderful to see.
Yeah. Now, of course, I think what lent some credibility is your own background as a rugby player yourself. You weren't just some lefty, liberal, skinny weakling, non-sport type.
We're all skinny weaklings compared with the guys these days, but no, I definitely grew up in the dream. I definitely wanted that All Black jersey and, you know, made a lot of sacrifices to try and get it. And I guess it was only when I got within grasping distance that I realised it wasn't something I should necessarily aspire to. But those were very different times, you know, and rugby was very different. I should say that. And the play now, you know, reads to me like a sort of creaky period piece. And I'm hopeful that it has no relevance whatever to New Zealand blokedom now, except as a sort of maybe a pointer as to where we were once.
Well, look, whizzing ahead to the presents, you're opening with your fish and chip thing at Tahura Nico, you're opening Booktown.
Yes.
So the idea of that is just sit and have some greasies with Greg?
Yeah, well, you know, I don't know whether Bigsy knew that I always have fish and chips on Friday night.
Right.
It is a long way to come to get them, but no, I'm happy to be here and I'm happy to kick off the wonderful weekend ahead of us.
Isn't it fabulous?
I'm sitting in this fabulous room in the Royal Hotel. What a wonderful job they've made of this, and so I'll be able to see a lot of events and you know, participate in a few. But I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of writers and artists that I wouldn't necessarily get to see even in Auckland.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Now, your gig as Alex. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, you know, it had this wonderful benefit of I didn't have to do any interviews with radio stations. Not that I'm complaining, but I didn't have to do any publicity. And so I just sort of put the book out there and retreated to my closet. And there was a lot of speculation as to who she was, and my name was part of it. But I thoroughly enjoyed the experience. But the interesting thing is that I think now that once she was exposed as me, I've never really been able to write as her again, although I was never sort of writing as Alex Bosco. I was always writing as the character, who was Anna Markunis. And so I really identified, after I got halfway through the first book with Anna, I thought, I care about this character. I don't want my name on the front. It'll destroy any credibility she might have.
Interesting thing, you feel that once you were outed, it affected you psychologically. You found it difficult to write as Alex again. It's almost like an acting role. Yeah,
I couldn't go back and to channel her in the same way. And I had to come out because the second book was I had another book under my own name, Love and Money, coming out, and I'd never been in a position where someone had come up to me and said, a journalist come up to me and said directly, "Are you Alex Bosco?" And I didn't want to ever lie, and I could get away with evading the whole thing as long as no one actually asked me directly. And I felt that as soon as I had my own book out there, that question was gonna come. Yeah. So that was all over for Alex.
Bit of fun having another name. I had a friend who changed his name from, you might know, Rabbit, changed his name from Tony Davis to Tony Rabbit. I was so impressed with this.
I've heard of him. That's the wonderful thing as a writer. You can legally, be anyone
that's right.
you want to be.
I was
it's a wonderful freedom.
I was Michael Antelope for many years. I thought it had a kind of classical ring to it.
Oh yeah, lovely, and and did you speak a bit of Italian to go with it?
Now and then, yes. Yeah. Hey, the actual event at the Featherston Bowling Club. It's late night lit. Is it very? I get a feeling that it's kind of improvisational a bit there that you're doing with Freya and Sam.
Yeah, I think it's more their show than mine. I'll do a very staid little reading, and they'll be cavorting about the place, and hopefully, as I understand it, it's also kind of participatory. So people who want to give something, a reading or whatever, are welcome to.
Oh, good. Yeah, so sort of like an open mic night.
Yeah. I mean, I've never been to one, so it'll be a learning experience for me too.
Well, you will make it your own, and in fact, you will set the tone for all.
Do that. I want Sam and Freya to make it their own.
Oh, good. I'm sure they will. And you're going to be on the couch with Peter on Saturday also.
Yeah. Bigsy is doing me over on the couch. That should be interesting. He's last night at dinner here. I could see he was probing away, wanting information, and I thought, as I talked to him, I thought, how is this going to rebound on me?
Do you tend to keep things close to your chest? Are you somebody who doesn't like revealing their secrets?
No, I really have done, particularly my family background on that, and so tonight is really the first time where I'm going to talk about. Obviously, I'm talking about mainly as my life as a writer, the reality of that, the good, bad, ugly, and hopefully funny, but also a bit about how my own family life has impacted on my writing, which I've never felt free to do before because my parents were alive and all of that, So all of that. It should fill 20 minutes.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it will, because we've filled most of my program this morning, but Booktown is worth it. It's a fabulous opportunity to have all of those writers, and not just writers, but ancillary people showing you how to fix up books, and it's something that we haven't seen in this region, and I'm just so pleased that it's here and will continue.
Oh, thanks for your support, Mike. It should be a great weekend.
Yeah, I think it will be. Thanks a lot, and I think I've got the phone thing sorted now that we're finished.
Good. Yeah. Thanks, Mike.
All right. See you again. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Right. Well, that was Greg McGee, sometime Alex Bosco. Had a few problems with the phone, but I think I got it sorted, and you heard most things. I've kind of run out of time to tell you everything else that's going on in the weekend. I just want to remind you about the Migrant Journeys number 2 happening tonight, 7 o'clock at Aratoi. It's an Arrow FM event, and we're rather proud of it, but we don't want to take take people away from Booktown either. Mostly people have booked for Booktown, and all right, so there's lots of events happening. Well, you get that, and we're very happy that there's so much happening in the Wairarapa. I'm going to leave it at that, because we have other programs coming up. Around about 9 o'clock, Lucy Cooper did an interview with Dame Fiona Kidman, and I'm going to play that on the program just because I've got it, and Lucy's really good at that, and Dame Fiona is well worth a listen. So thank you all for listening. Thanks to Peter Biggs for telling us about Booktown. Thanks for Greg for giving us some insights. But if you want more insights, go to that On the Couch session. That's Saturday night, 9:30 to 10:15 at the Royal Hotel. You might find out a few things. All right, that's it from me. Thanks for listening, and some of you for watching. And we'll talk to you again next week. Bye.